We up and I'm feeling like a new me. Stacking new sets, some new E. NFTs, all of them you need. Back in my zone like 2-3. All time high, hit a new peak. Let's go. Homie, the Bulls is back. I said the Bulls is...
GM, welcome back to the channel. In this one, we are doing some speculation upon the total crypto market cap for this cycle. Looking at total 1, which is all of the coins, everything crypto. And then also total 3, which excludes Bitcoin and ETH, i.e. the altcoins, which the degens are probably most excited about. So in this one, let's just do some dubious speculation. Let's check out some stats and see where the chips may lie. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll jump on in. So Ansem has tweeted this, as to have other individuals talking around a $10 trillion crypto market cap. So he says that, look, the Bitcoin ETF flows are not going to be stopping anytime soon. We have this kind of gigabid from the suits, and they're realizing they get to buy a more effective version of gold for 10x cheaper. So 10 trillion plus is the market cap by year end of 2025, is Ansem's speculation here, which will definitely take, as he has been calling the markets exceptionally well. We also know Dan Tapiero, his fund is called 10T, $10 trillion. That is actually his estimate by 2030, I believe it is, for Bitcoin's market cap. So that is actually a pretty big, sizable Bitcoin market cap. I think it's like 700 or 800K at that point to reach 10 trillion. So if we just look at things here, on this chart, you can see a ranking of assets being either securities like these stocks, plus also we have precious metals and Bitcoin as well. You can see in 9th position, just below silver there. So humans generally like big round numbers, and we like targeting big round numbers as well. Think about it with your portfolio. If you can get your hands on, say, 1,000 of X shitcoin, that's probably going to be a target. You don't typically stop at like 850. You want to get 1,000. We like big round numbers. It just is what it is. We are collectors by nature. And so I think in this market cycle, what we'll see is not Bitcoin move towards 10 trillion, because that is almost a 10x from here, which will be a ridiculous price. But I do think 10 trillion is a reasonable market cap for the total crypto market cap, as per Ansem has mentioned, and quite a lot of others on crypto Twitter as well. If you just think about it, if we just look at all these assets on here, Bitcoin, say it doubles from here, from 1.4 up to 2.8 trill. You're then pushing 3rd position, other things being equal. Once we flip the likes of Microsoft this cycle, which I'm pretty confident will happen, once this occurs, the only thing we're looking towards is then gold. And of course, I don't need to explain to you why Bitcoin is superior to gold. And I think as the demographics play out over time, a lot of investors will be valuing Bitcoin a lot more so than gold. And so that gap is going to close over time. And we are just catching gold up at a rate of knots. So I think once we get 2nd position in here somewhere, say Bitcoin's at a 3.5 trillion market cap, people are then going to be mentally gunning for that gold 1st position, and that will be the target come the next cycle, or maybe the cycle after. So Dan Tapiero's 10 trillion talk by 2030, I think, is something to obviously think about, and this could be something that does occur a little bit later down the line. But I do think people will be able to speculate that crypto overall should be as valuable as gold this cycle. And so the case for double-digit trillions for crypto, I think, will be made as the cycle progresses. Think about it, we get to the total crypto market cap of somewhere like $5, $6, $7 trillion. People will be saying, just a 2x from here, we'll take out gold. That is the kind of stuff that happens. And this is what drives the markets, FOMO. So we'll start here on total 1. So this is the total crypto market cap. And as you can see, I've charted the previous peaks, and we've got a trend line going into the future date here. I've decided to end my trend lines around Q1, the start of like January in 2025, as that's kind of my mental model or mental tapping out of the markets at that point. But what you typically see with assets and charts is that there is an aesthetic that plays out. The charts paint a rather nice picture over time. And so a trend line like this, I would expect in the blow off top, we would get a movement towards this trend line and complete the kind of picture that is being painted here. So although that may sound a little bit strange, I do think the aesthetic of a chart is actually really important. So let's have a little look and measure out. So the previous to one cycle, so it topped out in January of 2018 with altcoins going absolutely mental. We had a huge drawdown in the altcoin market cap, 86% there, which is rather damn brutal. And you can see in this most recent bear market, we had a drawdown from like 3 trillion market cap all the way down to this region, $730 billion, a 75% retrace. So what you can see is that we have diminishing returns on the way down. Now, whether your altcoin goes down 85% or 75%, you're pretty wrecked either way. But what we can see here is that from peak to peak, 2018 to 2021 peak, around a 300% gain. So if we just map that on top, now you would maybe expect that we would get diminishing returns to some degree, as bigger asset class takes a lot more money to move it up. But then I'm seeing a lot of people argue on the flip side saying, look, we've never had the suits come in as they are. Larry Fink of BlackRock has just put 100 mil into a tokenization fund. And so the big dicks are swinging. So if we just follow this trend line out, maybe a 200% gain puts us towards a 9 trill market cap. But if we do get the same returns as last market cycle, we kind of play this out, a 300% move puts us towards a 12 trillion market cap. Now, if you just play along this line here, of course, if the bull run comes in a lot thicker and faster and we have a parabola earlier, I think that will cap us to the upside as we would reach this kind of line earlier. But if the market cycle goes on longer and we chop around and then we maybe have our parabolic advance later on, then of course those bigger numbers do become targets. So I'll just draw a quick squiggly of what can potentially happen here going into that kind of Q1 of 2025 there. So around January 25, maybe hitting around $9-10 trillion is something I think we could see. Now, don't take those drawings too serious, just a bit of a squiggle. But let's look at total 3 here. So again, we have this kind of aesthetic. We have the top of the 2018 cycle for total 3 coming into the 2021 cycle. And as I mentioned earlier, total 3 is all of the cryptos less Bitcoin, ETH, and I believe stables. So this is the altcoin market cap. And again, we've got this kind of aesthetic we would like to come and tap at some stage, whether that becomes earlier or later. Maybe we'll define how big the cycle gets. But what we can see, if you just look at the previous history, so this is the last bull run, things just advance, gaining momentum, and obviously momentum equaling FOMO, more money being thrown into the markets. But we often don't have many periods of a slowdown. You have a bit of a sideways consolidation here, but that was quite early on after the breakout, which kind of reminds me of where we are right now. But once we start motoring, we don't get many pullbacks as we just ascend in towards Valhalla, and things go up scarily quick as you have the FOMO being printed on the charts and you have a parabolic advance into a top. So I think for total 3, it is very, very juicy right now for the altcoins. Typically, the biggest gains are going to be made by the altcoins. If you really want to change your life in crypto, you need to be playing the altcoins. You can see the altcoin market cap here is 44% off the highs. So quite a ways to go. Whereas you can see here, total 1 is just around 15% off the highs. So this means there is a lot more juice in the tank here for the altcoins. It has been very much Bitcoin led up to this stage due to the fact we have the ETFs. So people have been allocating more into BTC, Bitcoin dominance, of course, therefore going up. So if we just check this one out as well. So the peak of 2018 into 2021, we had around a 240% gain for the altcoins. If we just go to peak of 21, play out something similar, maybe towards 200% on this trend line here, you're pushing out towards Q1 of 2025 there at around $3.2 trillion in market cap. So in terms of like my mental models going into this cycle, what I'm looking at here is for us to come and paint these pictures on the charts and push towards the green lines, test our trend lines at some form of parabolic top. Now, whether we come and do that earlier or later, yet to be seen. The market cycle has become somewhat more exuberant more early than many were expecting. So some people are saying that means the cycle will be shorter. But there is obviously a flip side and a differing opinion to that. The fact that we've had more froth more early shows more money has come into the market earlier, and thus maybe we will have a longer and bigger cycle than we have before. So I think it's just important to play out some of these mental models and think about having a strategy for taking profit and what you're going to do at certain maybe intervals in this market cycle. So for me personally, for those interested, I'm going to sell in 3 batches. And I've already mentally mapped these out. Of course, subject to change, we'll see how the cycle progresses. But my thoughts right now are to do with cashing out 1/3 of my stack before the US election, as I think there could be some turmoil post-election, especially if there's issues in the US, vote fraud kind of allegations. You can imagine the shitstorm that could occur and could affect potentially financial markets. So I'll be taking out 1/3 prior to the actual election taking place. So around the end of October of this year. The second third will come out around Christmas at the end of this year. And then the third and final batch for me will come out in Q1 of 2025, as that is kind of where I think this cycle will top out. I previously looked at the length, the duration of crypto market cycles, and around the 12-month spot is a good median from the halving. So from halving to halving, 12 months is about as good as you're going to get in a typical cycle. So I kind of would like to be out of the market by that time. I've also got some personal things coming up around then as well. So this is obviously personal to my strategy, but I'll be taking out the final third then. Now I will remain with exposure to the markets, and this is how. I've been investing in DeFi protocols that pay users with staked positions. So Aura Finance being one, being paid bribes on a bi-weekly basis. So this means I will retain market exposure if the market cycle continues on for longer, and I will be able to harvest more yields. So if it does go on, I'm quids in, I'll be very happy with that. My yield will still be rolling in, and I will have the underlying exposure to the market via those positions. If we do top out, and I'm correct, and maybe we've topped by Q1 of 2025, well then I've cashed out my major chips. My exposure is going to diminish in overall value, and the yields are likely to diminish slowly over time as well. But I will still have some passive yield, and I will still have exposure on the way down. But this will ensure that I have cashed out enough chips to last for multiple years going forwards, and having enough cash going into the next bear market where you really want to be investing heavily. As we've seen during this previous bear market, if you did stick around, you can run up some huge multiples before the masses actually arrive. So this is just my personal strategy, of course. If you want to think about your own, I'd highly recommend making some notes and just thinking through some mental models of where you want to be, how you want to position yourself, and how you want to exit these markets, as there will always be a time to get the F out. But as you can see from the charts and what we discussed today, it looks like we still have quite a ways to go. Multiple trillions in market cap still on the table, and a lot of FOMO yet to be seen. So that is all from today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.